And we are live. Welcome to the weekly armchair kickoff, and we will be talking today about the biggest rivalry in England. Some may debate that, but I think it is anyway. We are talking about Manchester United versus Liverpool. We are joined here today by Dick. Dick, how are you, man?
Good, yeah. Definitely the biggest rivalry in the Premier League and probably in the world. The noisy neighbours don't come. Forget them. This is the one that we look at first day of the season, mark it in the calendars. United versus Liverpool, our biggest rival. Can't wait for Sunday.
Massively. Now we are meant to be joined by a fellow, an OG of the channel, shall we say, in Gary Egan, but he has not arrived yet. But we'll kick on. But just before we go any further, Dick, we will just have to touch on this slightly. The news has broken that, or we've known it now with the last couple of days, but it's official. Scott McTominay has left Manchester United for Napoli, and we were just having a quick word off of camera here. It is a disappointment to see him go. It all the same.
Yeah, 22 years at the club. Look, he's never going to win the Ballon d'Or or everything, but what he does give is gives his heart and soul to the club, and we've all talked about too many players not showing that, and he loved United and played every time, with honour is what I'd call it, decent professional. Hope he does well out there in Napoli. I hope everything goes good for him. He deserves it. Gutted to see him go. I definitely had a lot more on the transfer list ahead of Scott, but hope he does great.
No, I just have a question though. Like, I suppose I try and follow everyone where I can. Antonio Conte, where would Scott McTominay kind of fit in there? But it's like I would say, we know he can play a lot across the back line. He can play anywhere in the midfield. He's our breaking the box striker as well. So, like, where does he actually fit in a Conte style team though?
Yeah, I found that a bit strange because, Conte, if anything, has always been ultra defensive and negative in his play, I would have thought. Whereas Scott wants to get on the ball and push forward. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
But yeah, 22 years at the club, though, it's just massive, like.
Yeah, he was a huge servant for United, and he loved United. Even for Ten Hag to say that he didn't want him to go says a lot about Scott as a professional, in my opinion.
But no, we will kick on, and hopefully Gary does join us in the course of this conversation. We'll start with, quite frankly, the fact we're talking about Manchester United versus Liverpool, our own biggest memories of it, and our best memories. Obviously, there could be a lot of recency bias in what we're about to say as well. But we'll start with you, Henry Deck. I'll bring mine in after. Like, where would you say your best memories lie of Man United versus Liverpool games over the years?
Oh God, I have so many favourites. Anytime we beat them is wonderful. But my favourite, I think, was do you remember when Gary Neville got fined for celebrating in front of the Scousers in
January 2005, I think.
He literally length of the pitch to take the piss out of him, and I was jumping around as much as he was. And as you say, Gary is a red. He hates Scousers.
Were you at the game though? Do I be asking? Or
I was, yeah.
Of course you were.
Yeah, I was at that game, and we just went demented when we saw it. When we speak about players showing passion for the club, like Gary Neville has to be up there with the top Reds. But to see him take the piss out of their fans was actually hilarious. I know he got fined out of it, but it was probably worth it.
Oh, Matt, that's because he probably, if you ask him, no, he would definitely say it was worth it in the hindsight of it all. Like there's so many different memories you could talk about. You could talk about that game. You could talk about Matt at Anfield. You could talk that's what I'm saying. I'm just thinking of more recency bias because they're the easiest ones to come to memory. Because we could easily just say the game on Paddy's Day last year because it was that damn good.
Yeah, to give us that on Paddy's Day. You
were working. I was in the store. I was having a great time.
I have to work sometimes, but I definitely kept an eye on the match. All right.
But no, my favorite of that stands out to me anyway it was around the same time. It was like is it March 2006? I think it was when United at Anfield and John O'Shea scored my winner. But like as I was just saying to you, it was more for me. The reason it kind of gave that a little bit more for me because my brother's a Liverpool fan, my sister's a Liverpool fan. They were both at the game in Anfield. They managed to get tickets through a friend of the family. Very well seats. I think they were in a private box, I think it was. And for them to sit there and watch John O'Shea put it in top pins. Oh, well, hello, Trevor. Evening, Pierre Cashman, and that blow claimers.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Trevor, I don't think I heard your nickname for Dick yet, but that's a brilliant one. And straight in again. Favorite memory was Kansas scoring the 96 FA Cup final. And you could just be here all day talking about different games, really.
Yeah, anytime we beat the Scousers is like, I mean, for people to even think that they come close to the rivalry between Liverpool and United, it's a bit of a joke, and it's a non-starter for me. I mean, I think it's because of the history of both clubs. That's what makes it. The rest are just pretenders. People don't talk about the other clubs in the same vein as Manchester United and Liverpool. So it may come a bit strange, but I have a lot of respect for Liverpool as a club.
Given how you talk about the fans.
Yeah, no, maybe not the fans, but the club and the way it's run. It's not like a Chelsea. It's not like our noisy neighbours. At least they have a history. I mean, I'm more informed in 2020, like our noisy neighbours.
No, so, I will say this much though. There's only one. I suppose I had one fella I used to work with in my Twitter replies already when I was sharing this earlier, but he was debating Arsenal and Spurs as a bigger rivalry than United and Liverpool. I suppose it's probably a more intense in more recent times, maybe. Would that be fair to say?
I mean, realistically, the two biggest clubs in England have always been Manchester United and Liverpool. And I mean, Arsenal, Spurs. I mean, who cares about them?
Well, who cares about Spurs more about Arsenal? Because at least
Spurs
they have something to show for it. Like,
always going to be Spursies.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, no, they come nowhere near our rivalry, in my opinion.
All right, Trevor, how am I a Liverpool fan? Don't be fun. Come on, man. You're just giving ammunition to this man over here, like. But look, I suppose, like I said, we could literally sit here all day and just reminisce. And like, if people were, for anyone in the comments, please engage and give us your memories because we could probably just pick up off that as well. Just thinking of one particular moment that you think stands out among the rest, it could literally trail along. Like, but in the meantime, we'll talk about the two managers. We have Eric Ten Hag.
Do you know that game in '96? The funniest thing about that FA Cup final game had the Liverpool team coming out looking like fucking tossers in their white suits.
I was just going to say, I couldn't remember, was that the one in the cream suits? Oh, man. Not being funny, but I think we did take the piss of my brother. The time of his stag, we kind of did like blazers of some sort. Like, they looked kind of a custardy, they ended up looking more like custard than a fucking. What's the kind of a dark yellow I'm trying to think of? But anyway, we kind of took the piss out of it, and I just when it eventually arrived from China, I threw it on, and I just said I looked like one of the boys that played for Liverpool in Wembley. Because honestly, it literally looked like that. It on the photo, I think we bought them off like DHK or somewhere in China back in 2016. They looked like a decent creamy yellow kind of color. And then by the time they actually came, yourself stuff coming from China, it's not how it's going to be as you see on the picture. It came out more like a custard yellow, and I was like, oh my god, it nearly made me look like them. Surprisingly, despite just guessing on the size, it actually fit. But anyway, and yeah, even Trevor, like Liverpool are always the yardstick as rival, nothing else compares. Like
100%, yeah.
Because let's say we have certain. No, fair enough, we're Irish, but at the same time, when you talk about where you are locating in Manchester, slightly up north in England, there is a certain set of barcodes trying to start a rivalry because they think they're a big club.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't rate them at all. I mean, No, no, they're no one's. They're not even Sunderland's rival. I mean,
like, all right, who would you rate? Who would you rate as a challenge to us more? Would you rate Newcastle, Tottenham? Who would you consider more of a rival? And when you consider neither team have won anything in recent time.
I'd probably consider Spurs more. They've been
Because
around.
they've been more consistent, maybe.
Yeah, like Newcastle. No, Newcastle. Jeez, did you see Newcastle last night? They barely got through on penalties against Forest. I mean, they have all the money in the world. Don't seem to want to spend it, which is good in one way, that they haven't taken the City way of buying everyone and flogging the money. But no, I just think Newcastle think they're big. Just doesn't really happen for them.
Yeah. And for that moment, we will move on to the next topic. So we will look at the two managers themselves, Ten Hag versus Arne Slot. It's their first competitive match against each other. Obviously, I mentioned the fact it was a first competitive match because they played pre-season. Each time they play in the Eredivisie, Ten Hag got the upper hand with Ajax over Feyenoord or even at the Alkmaar. Can we expect a different approach from Arne Slot in this manner now that he has would you say a better team at his disposal, shall we say? I'll be honest though, I've been watching how Liverpool's been playing just to kind of get an idea as to how Slot would play, because even my brother didn't know enough about him, and he's a Liverpool fan. But watching them in pre-season and then watching them at the start of the Premier League, they seem to have some, like, the one thing about United I have had an issue with under Ten Hag is the fact that there has been a slight issue of style of play. It's what they have with Slot looks on paper, I'm looking at from my perspective, kind of looks similar to how they had under Klopp. Maybe that has the same level of intensity, maybe. And it looks good. And I'm not going to lie, it looks good because watching how they played in pre-season, was it that last game? Is it the day before the Community Shield where they were playing Sevilla and Anfield? And the team looked like they were actually well gelled at that point, because it's just the way. Obviously, at the end of the day, I'm not going to hype up Liverpool players by any stretch of the imagination. But when you consider how, let's say, Salah, was it Jota, I believe it was, and Diaz kind of flowed through the front three. They were a fluid front three, even though Salah primarily on the right, of course. They were very fluid and they actually moved around. It actually looked quite decent. I'm not going to hype them up too much, but having said that, you look at the way that front line kind of didn't exactly gel for Liverpool in Klopp's last season, and it looked very fluid there now in the last couple of games I've watched for Liverpool. And I like to see what Slot actually brings to the table, because people are saying, I've heard Liverpool fans say he's not what he's made out to be. So from what I see, I can't really see him much more than a B-Tech Klopp, and I can't believe I'm saying that, and I might come back to haunt me on that one. But just looking at it from the outside in, it's starting to look that way, because I can see where Slot is trying to work the progression, but I don't think he'll reach the success for what Klopp did for Liverpool. I'm talking success right there. Obviously, at the end of the day, he got his couple of trophies and all that. But for what Klopp did, I don't think Slot will achieve anything like that.
Well, here's hoping he doesn't anyway.
Obviously, but at the same time, you kind of have to look at it from that perspective as well, because I suppose at the end of the day, when you look at it, let's say you look at United after Fergie, Arsenal after Wenger, and initially this will be their version of, in their modern day version of life after Wenger, life after Fergie. You're going to have to adjust no matter who you bring in to try and say you can't compare them to Klopp.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be changes when a manager leaves and when a manager has been relatively successful and when they move on. But
yeah, like even Trevor here, Slot is on hiding to nothing, coming in after Klopp, the same as Moyes. Now, here's the thing: will Liverpool end up doing a Moyes with United and bidding Slot off if the expectation is set too high for him, or do they actually stick with him in the long term? Is what I want to know, because I genuinely think they're not going to do Glazers and Moyes, and they're actually going to stick with slash through it because they did it with Klopp all those years ago, and the success that they brought as a result. Like,
Yeah, I can't see it. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, he, as Trevor says, he is on a hiding to nothing. I mean, because he's going, whether he likes it or not, everything he does is going to be compared to what Klopp has done before him. But I just hope they go into the doldrums for the next 10 years. That'll keep me happy anyway.
like, and that'd be funny. Even if we, like, say, because, like, even going to go off of this now, Liverpool look to be a bit more settled than us as a team, whereas we're still finding our feet. Now, they can still look settled and they can still struggle, whereas we struggle in general. But you look at it in the perspective of if they go down to the doldrums, there's not a guarantee that we're going to rise back up above them, though. At this current level, like, we're not going to just go straight up ahead of them. No, going off of what we're seeing so far after this summer, we'll get into that a little bit in a minute. But from what I'm seeing on and off the pitch, just in this summer alone, the expectation will be high, though.
100%, yeah. I mean, the expectation that kills us. You know, I mean, we're hoping for a better season than last season. Do you know what? In our first two games, I think we've played better already. While we didn't against Brighton, I actually thought for a lot of that game we're actually playing decent football. And 2 moments of madness just cost us, you know. Now Sunday, it doesn't matter where we are in the league or whatever, but when we play Liverpool, the form book goes out the window. It doesn't matter because the United fans expect their team to tear into Liverpool on Sunday. They have to do it, you know, and it doesn't matter which team is on the rise at that time. Liverpool and United games can't be called. It should be blood and thunder. I expect Lisandro Martinez to kick someone in the forehead at some point during the game. You know,
well, he did it to Salah 2 games in. Well, close to doing it to Salah 2 games into his campaign at the start. Like, so
I'm expecting a big performance from him on Sunday. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to the game.
But I suppose when I asked the question then, because, like, in fairness, it's unfortunate we haven't had Gary on yet because I wanted to get his perspective on how he sees Arne Slot so far. But I suppose we'll take United perspective on it now. Do we expect Ten Hag to stay stubborn with his approach, or do we expect him to try something different yet again? Because, like, we saw in the lead up to City last year, he was stubborn and continuing with his 4-2-3 and leaving that gap in the midfield. Whereas then when it came to City, he changed it around with that 4-2 kind of diamond formation in the midfield, and it worked for the most part until the floodgates did open. So, do you think he'll stick with his current formation of 4-2-4? Because was that the Athletic actually put out a poll there recently? It was definitely during the week, and it was a question of, do you expect him to stick with his 4-2-4, or does he go back to a 4-2-3-1 with a midfield pivot in the meantime?
He's going to have to change his team anyway because Mr. Glass Mount is out again.
No, we won't be like that with Mount.
Yeah, it's brutal. His injury record is just woeful. So I think he's going to start with Xerxes, and I think he's going to come in and bully the Liverpool backline, and that's what we want to see. We want this young lad to go up and start clattering into a few of them. He's got a bit about him. I think he's a decent signing. I've liked what I've seen of him so far. So with Mount gone, I can see Xerxes coming in.
What someone actually, I seen it on Twitter, and someone actually made a valid point that fair enough, we will miss Mount off the ball, because I've been preaching that one. We will miss him off the ball when he's injured, and because of the work rate that he puts in, he does put 100% into it. Like, for as bad as his injury record is, you can't deny how good he is and how valuable he is to the team so far off the ball. But the problem is then when he's injured, what happens? Because let's say when Highland's in the team, you immediately get someone who you just have him with his raw pace. But the thing with Xerxes is the fact that when you bring him in, you have someone who, I won't compare him to Harry Kane, but it's the way he drops deep, creates the flow of the game for himself. Like, you saw the way he created created his own goal against Fulham. It's just the fact that he dropped that far back, played it out to the right, and by the time the ball was whipped in, he was there waiting for to take the touch, even though fair enough, I thought it was Scott McTominay who got the first touch to it. But anyway, like, okay, actually, yeah, here's one now. Biggest problem is Casemiro, as his legs are completely gone, and also Dallo, no matter where he plays. Trevor, I'd actually disagree with Bob on Dallo because he's our most improved player in the last 2-3 years, hands down. Because some players, I won't say Lissandro Martinez is an improved player because he jumped from one club to the other and he looked the real deal until the injury, basically. Dallo, like, for me, I've always liked Dallo from the moment he came to the club, just for his versatility, and I don't care what people say. Back at the time, I stand by him. I always preferred him over Wan-Bissaka for as much as I appreciate Wan-Bissaka and his defensive ability under Ole. Hands down, I always preferred Dallo. And
Yeah,
now that we're actually seeing the better version of Dallo in the right setup, I have no regrets about standing by him. Like,
yeah, no, I like Dallo. I think he puts in a shift. Definitely the first goal against Brighton, Harry should have cleared the ball. Before it even came back in, I think that was a mistake. He said he couldn't get the ball. You can see that on camera. I mean, all you have to do was stretch out his leg and he would have got it. So, I like Dallo. I think he puts in a decent shift. He's definitely improved exponentially. He's done really well, I think.
Yeah,
Casemiro's a good shout. I think he's kind of feeling the pace of the Premier League.
Yeah, but like, I suppose I was talking to someone before, and it was actually a valid point that they made. They said, look, when you consider who you had in the midfield with him at Real Madrid, you had Kroos, you had Modric. Did he have? Is it the same summer Tchouameni and Camavinga came in when he left? About getting my dates correct, but when you consider the world class midfield he's worked with, I'm not saying he was carried by any stretch, but at the same time, you kind of have to look at the perspective of he didn't have to do much of the pressing up and down the pitch. Therefore, his legs were maintained, shall I say?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, he was in a proper unit that's a world-class midfield that he was in. He's been asked to do a lot more now. The pace of the Premier League is a lot quicker than La Liga as well. So
it's one of the most fast-paced in the world. More to the point that I'd say even if you threw him into the league, and he'd still be thriving simply because it's not a quick pace of the league. Like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's just too much for him now at this stage. And I thought he'd actually go in the summer as well. I was full sure off to Saudi to rake up a couple of 100 million before he retires.
Like, to be fair though, the question kind of has to lie now with Ten Hag of, do you risk having Casemiro exposed in such a high intensity game? The fact that we all know that his legs aren't there anymore. Like, you kind of have to think the fact that we didn't register Manuel Ugarte in time. No doubt he's going to be presented down in front of the fans, especially because of the fact that he, the official announcement hadn't come through yet, but we know it's coming. So you can only imagine it's going to be a presentation in front of the Old Trafford crowd now as well on top of it.
Oh, I'd expect that to be done on Sunday. Yeah. Yeah, it's a pity he wasn't ready for Sunday because he's kept himself fit. Not one for holding players back because they haven't got game time. These lads are fit enough, so throw him in at the deep end. I would have.
No, I suppose the fact he hadn't played a whole lot of football since the Copa America, that's the only reason he probably wouldn't have been involved, even if he did have involvement in team training. Let's say, because I could say the fact we had predicted Mazraoui in training with the players before Fulham, even if that was the scenario with Ugarte, it's because he hadn't played a single minute since the Copa America. That's the only thing now that I would say maybe don't play him. Oh, come on now. Dara just saw Dex tattoo. I take it all back about the player. Is he also Hell's Angels? He's lovely. Oh, Trevor, if we only ever met you, I think we'd have a great laugh at you, in fairness. But as we're kind of talking about the transfers that we've had in, and the fact that his transfer deadline day, Dick, I want to get your rating of our actual transfer window as a whole out of 10.
Well, considering for the last few years it's probably been a 2, I was really delighted with this transfer window. Probably 7.5, 8 at the most out of 10. I'd give it. I've been happy. It's been a decent transfer window for us. We haven't had it in such a long time, and I like the way Ineos are doing business. Away from Braithwaite, that wasn't being done to their satisfaction. So rather do what we did the last few years and just pay whatever anyone asked with a United tax thrown on top. I actually think that they went about doing business. Anyone that they sold, we've a significant sell-on clause involved in it as well. So, 7.5, 8 out of 10 for me, 100%. Yeah.
That's actually one with the sell-on clause. That's one thing I do appreciate about this transfer window is the fact that, fair enough, we're selling young players who may not have gotten a chance at the club, but we're selling them for either a buyback clause with a sell-on clause, or percentage sell-on, whatever way they want to word it. But you kind of like there's so many different ways you've looked at it. Like some clubs do sell-on clauses in general. Some will say whatever profit of the price the next club buy them for, basically. So it's that kind of way. Like, so like, as far as where it's actually 20, let's say anything, most of our players have gone for anything between 20 to, I think the Greenwood was like 40%, or I definitely heard some players going for nearly 50% of the sell-on after anyway.
Yeah, the business has been smarter this season. Transfer team have been better, and the targets were identified. Yeah, he's obviously talking about you. And,
hey!
But no, it's definitely the best one we've had in a long, long time.
And even Trevor here, transfer rating at least a 9, 5 solid options in, plus the new land coordinates, so 6, and Martin, so 7 signings. So when you consider who we're buying in, and like, I'd be lying if I said I knew anything about it. No, I've heard enough about Obi Martin to, because let's say that for the Academy Scoop on Twitter is massively involved in talk about young upcoming prospects. So he knew about him. He knew about Cody, but he didn't realize we were about to sign him. So he got the absolute hop of a lifetime when he saw that. But like, from what I've been told about people about Cody, he's a real prospect, and the fact that he's 18, he's being, I think I read the statement, he's being brought through the academy first until he's settled in Manchester, and then he'll be transported up to the first team sooner or later. So I'd say by the end of the season, we'll nearly see him as part of the first team setup. We'll nearly see him. That's what they're saying as well about Obi Martin, but at the end of the day, he's only 16 though, so I wouldn't know about whether he'd be ready-made for Premier League by the end of the season. But if he starts firing all cylinders with the under 18s, under 23s, I wouldn't be totally against it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, if you're good enough, you're old enough. It doesn't matter. I remember a young Wayne Rooney when he...
16 years old, that's right, yes.
Also, I mean, if you're good enough, you're well able for it. Be interesting to see 2 signings for the future as well, which we haven't had the transfer team doing. I mean, we've been buying fellas that were past their sell-by date, and so it's good to see a decent transfer window for a change.
No, I suppose like I'm as happy as I've been with the incomings, the outgoings, I think for me have been a joy to see, because certain players who don't deserve to wear the shirt anymore, one of them potentially out the door. I always rated the transfer window at about 7.5, 8 to an 8. It nearly pushes it to a 9 if he gets sold by the end of the night. I'm not going to mention his name because I would go on an absolute rant about that man. But it's just seeing who we've gotten rid of for them. Okay, some of the fees have been questionable, but like, it's crazy to think though. Like, they sold Donny Van de Beek to Girona. It starts at an initial 500k, but depending on how many of the or add-ons get actually completed, the deal nearly goes up to 20 million.
Yeah, but knowing Donny Van de Beek, the price will probably stay at 500,000.
Yeah, no, but like, it's amazing how that kind of deal can be constructed. Basically,
Yeah,
it's like I never thought it's like fair enough. You hear of these deals that say 500K and with all these add-ons, it'll go to 3 million. Now they're saying the easy add-ons will guarantee it to be about 3.5 million. I'm assuming that's probably like how many different appearances and all the easy add-ons that generally go into a contract, basically all on performance based, will be completed. We'll probably get about 3.5 million from by the end of it. But I must actually figure how all the add-ons relate to a 20 million potential package for us. If someone actually fucking knows anything about it, by all means tell me. Like Trevor saying there about the younger players, like Carabao Cup games, like with the current players we have right now, the two that are going to be brought up through the Carabao Cup games, if we do, are going to be Harry Amos and Toby Collier, because they're slowly being shifted in. Like as of only a couple of days ago, Harry Amos was officially added to the first team listing according to Samuel Lucker. So I'll be honest, I didn't check it since. If he has,
I'd all be up for the youngsters being blooded in for the Carabao Cup. I mean, it's a great experience for them as well, you know. So yeah, I'd agree with you.
And especially now we're talking United with the Europa League games that we've gotten as well. Like, I suppose it depends on how Ten Hag works his way throughout the first few games. But I'm looking at that listing of, like, I suppose you've got Rangers, Porto, PAOK, Fenerbahce, Bodo Glimt, Victoria Pilsen, Twente, and I don't even know who the last team, FCSB. Never heard of them. But like, you look at that on paper, the only fixtures that pose difficulty are Rangers, Porto, and Fenerbahce. And I'm only saying Rangers are potential threat is because we have. Oh no, I was going to say, are we going to Ibrox? We're going to Italian Old Trafford, so that'll be a tasty game to go. I won't lie.
Yeah, I was kind of more looking at the Portugal game.
Yeah, like
get a cheeky flight from Kerry and see can we get out to Portugal, bit of sun, catch a game. Might be bad.
We won't even see the game once we be in the fucking bar.
You always make it to the game. You always make it to the game, no matter what. Whether we're in the Blaze at 9:30 in the morning, we still make it 4:00 kickoff.
That was a messy day altogether.
God, Trevor mentioned Martial, he who shall not be named. Oh, don't even get me started on him.
Now, the only one of those names I was actually disappointed to see go of those four was Palestri. Now, I suppose he had his opportunity to start last season, didn't work out for the best. At the end of the day, you look at like he came in at how much we paid for him? It was like 8 or 9 million in the end we paid for him. And like this is how smart the business was with Idios. Like I look at Hannibal here as a prime example. We spent 10 million from when he was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
And you look at it like we're after selling him on for a permanent basis of like 8.5, 9. But our sell-on clause will guarantee us to make profit with him. So like this is what is making it so much better for us. Because fair enough, we're lowballing ourselves to a certain extent. But depending on how much we pay per player, selling clauses will automatically give us that little bit of revenue to either make it break even or be a profit. So it's brilliant in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's good business.
And on that note, I will jump to our next topic, which I suppose like we kind of touched on already. But our expectations going into Sunday, have we do you just expect to go straight out for the win, or is there a case of because of as we were kind of discussing there, you have Xerxes kind of coming in for that mount role where Bruno will drop back into his natural 10 position. Do you still expect if we continue to play the same way, do we win with ease? Or like for me personally, I'm looking at a draw be the easy way out here.
No, I think United win on Sunday. I honestly do. I don't know whether it's blind optimism or what, but I actually think we've enough to beat him. And I think Mount being injured, and I believe that Xerxes, I think he should start. And with him in the team, he'll have a big impact on the game. And I think we beat the Scousers on Sunday 2-1.
I won't lie, like if I was to say United win, that probably would have been my scoreline. Well, before, I guess that scoreline last week, and unfortunately it was the right scoreline, but the wrong fucking team who won. But anyway,
Yeah,
like I suppose it begs the question now, with the story with the back line, do you put De Ligt in straight ahead of Maguire again, or do you like there's no point of I won't say pussyfooting around it, but like do you continue to ease De Ligt in, or do you just throw him straight into the high intensity game now?
I personally would throw him in for Sunday. Get himself and Martinez in there together, and Mazraoui would be there as well. And the low, I mean, that 4, I think, should be our defence going forward. And I don't see, like Ten Hag, my issue with him is stop pussyfooting around with the team. Get your 11 on the pitch and let them start playing together. Now, I've been a Harry Maguire fan. I think his resurgence has been great. But we all know that the league is going to be in the pecking order ahead of him. So if he is, get him in there Sunday.
Yeah, because I was looking at it and they're like, even Gary Neville was even making a point of changing your back 4 when you're trying to see out to get a win or a draw. It's just unheard of. So it was a kind of a surprise to Gary Neville to see that he was bringing on De Ligt for the sake of just having a few minutes under his belt. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, he either has to start him or not. But throwing him minutes here and there is not doing anything for him. Sure can't. I mean, the only way he's going to get game time is by playing the fucking game. Get him on the pitch. That's where we want him.
No, I suppose the question then is like, obviously he eased in Mazraoui by putting him at right back to get him adjusted to life at Manchester United. Putting that now, that's to say that Dallo will be like, sorry, I just even see it in the comment here. That will be picked apart against Salah. Like, Salah's not what he once was, and I will stand on that hill because he hasn't. Like my brother will say, fair enough, his lowest performing season was actually the year they won the title, albeit the COVID title. However, Salah hasn't been to that level since. And definitely not last year anyway. So I don't know. Can you eat, like, especially I find Salah doesn't always start the season at his best, say.
Yeah, I don't like obviously I'll disagree with Trevor on this. I don't think Dallo is going to get picked apart by Salah. And I really don't think he's that weak of a link. I think he's a decent player. And he's definitely been one of the more consistent players we've had when we've had our rough seasons. He's been consistent.
Yeah.
So, no, I definitely think it'll be Dalot, De Ligt, Martinez and Mazraoui.
And I suppose, like, and I was kind of going to bring on the point there of the fact that Mazraoui, like Dallo, can play left back.
Yeah.
Is it too much to ask for him to put him at left back straight away against Salah, or do we test the waters against Southampton after the international break, where he's definitely adjusted to life at the club at that point? Then.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't see any problem. Like, Mazraoui has just been cool, calm, and collected since he got to the club anyway, and he slotted.
Already up for Player of the Month, and to be honest, he has my vote.
Yeah, he slotted in seamlessly. So wherever you play him, he's going to play well. I think anyway. Yeah, he's decent, very good player.
Oh man, like I saw 6 minutes in your first game, and you're making a ballsy challenge like that against Fulham when you know the players will be on your, or the fans will be on your back if you mistime that challenge, and he just picks it perfectly.
Yeah, no, he's been great since he came, so he'll do. Yes,
going back off how you said earlier about playing for a draw, it's not an option. But like I said it at work earlier because my two bosses are Liverpool fans, and they both asked me what your expectations. I said I'd take a draw, just going off the fact that I don't know what to expect.
No, you have to play for the win. They have to go for the juggler, and they have to attack, and just fucking go from tear in team. There's something special about playing Liverpool in Old Trafford that gets the fans on. It is the one fixture that we look for at the start of the season, and That's what I mean. The team will get so much respect from the fans if they go out and tear into Liverpool. I mean, it'll be a great day. Sunday, everyone will be happy. Scousers will be going back down the motorway crying, and that's what.
But like this thing that like I always say, like God forbid the fucking scored I was 3-0 Liverpool, but if the boys actually put in a shift, I wouldn't give a shit. I would not give a shit if they actually went out there and said, "Look, we gave it absolutely everything. We left nothing on that pitch." And they end up losing 3-0, I would still say, look, they gave it a run. They gave it everything.
Well, see, that's what we've been missing the last few seasons, and the one thing that's annoyed all the fans. When we see the players trying, they'll earn our respect. It was the shit show of players being disinterested and not putting in a shift that drives us crazy. And that's what we don't like. We don't want to see disrespect to the jersey. So if they're putting in a shift and if they do lose, then so be it. We'll take a loss. What we won't take is players not trying. That's unacceptable. And we've had too many players like that in seasons gone by. Thankfully, most of them are gone now. I mean,
yeah,
it was so bad. We actually bought one back and left him go free again. Gee Christ. I mean, that just shows the difference in the transfer policy now. So I'm delighted with it. Ineos in.
But I will say this much though. A lot of, I will stand by what I'm going to say here. Some, I won't say all, but a lot of the players, if not only just a handful, when you go back over the years, if Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe and his team were there throughout the doldrums of 2013 to now, how many of those players would have actually been signed by Ineos but would have had a better price tag to it?
I don't think a lot of those players would have been. Pogba would never have been brought back.
No.
I mean, everyone knew what he was, a complete waster who prefers TikTok dancing and shit than playing on a pitch. So, no, wrong type of player for Ineos as well. He wouldn't.
I'll say this much. So I do think, let's say, in the later stage of Glazeronomics, as I'll call it, Mount still would have been a player viewed by Ineos, but it wouldn't have been at that price tag.
No, definitely not.
You look at, I'm not even just talking about the fact he's a Ten Hag style of player, and off the ball, pressing and everything. If Ten Hag had someone like Ineos from the start, and let's be honest, would we have gotten a certain Dutchman that plays in Barcelona? Or was it just a case of him being stubborn because he knew he was being owed wages?
Yeah, no, I think that's the reason that fans are actually happy with this transfer market. They're not seeing us going in for the types of players we used to before, and that was the biggest difference in this transfer window. We're not going for the €100 million player that has been around for the last 20 years. We're at building for the future, and we're getting in young talent. Mightn't be proven talent, but we're building for the future, and that's what we need. We're not going to go straight back to the top. It might take a few years, but this team at least seems interested in the team winning, whereas Glazers just want to open the mega store and clean out your wallet.
No matter what happens, that would happen anyway. And we kind of touched on it there, but you're saying 2-1 win for United. The fact you've taken my scoreline, I'm going to have to say something different. I would gladly say 2-0 United. I'm going to be ambitious. I'm going to say clean sheet United. Then again, the way on that has been, anything can happen these days.
Once we beat the Scousers, I couldn't care whether it goes in off Harry Maguire's arse or Xerxes' small toe. Once we beat that's the only thing that matters.
Of course. Hey, one last note. We are also not going for Wout van Aert. Mark Gillette, Big's favourite ever player. Oh, don't we know it all too well. And on that note, we will end tonight. Dick, unfortunately, we didn't get Gary on with us because it would have been nice to have the Liverpool perspective, but at the end of the day...
He was stuck in a queue at the door, yeah.
Oh, come on. I told him just one thing. Don't rile up the Liverpool sports. What does he do again? He riles up the Liverpool sports. Anyway, so Trevor, Julio, thanks for joining the comments, lads. Always been a pleasure. And on that note, we will say good night. Take care.
Cheers.